kind of just took that memory, boxed it up, I filed it away, and I didn't think about it again for years until I was fumbling around with fiction. I was trying to figure out what I want to write about. And it's hard because as a writer, you have the world's biggest box of crayons, and which color do you choose? And I was attending one of these, I was with my then fiance, now wife, and I was attending one of these weekends for newly engaged couples, which that alone is a bizarre social experiment. So if you're ever just bored on a Friday night, just go to one of those, sit in and see how that works. But we went to this. I promise I want to talk about the book soon. Hold on. But we go to this weekend, and we were way older than everybody else. We were like the chaperones at prom night. You know, everyone's like right out of college or still in college. And so the first thing they had everyone do was stand up and introduce themselves and say a few words about how you first met. And so the first couple stands up, and it's like, you know, right out of college. And they're like, well, I woke up and she had my t-shirt on, so I figured I'd ask her what her name was. You know, it was just very, you know, violins and harp strings, Hallmark, you know, knee-knocking moments. And it goes around the room, and everyone's first date involved like a frat party or spring break or Jell-O shooters or, and by this point in the evening, I'm looking for the exit. You know, I'm reclining, and when it gets around to me and I have to stand up in front of this group, and basically I had to tell them that I met my wife at that hotbed of swinging singles activity known as the public library. That was their reaction. It was a sort of nervous laughter, a patina of like, haha, no, really, where'd you meet? It was the public library. And I proposed in a bookstore. And that's when I knew I wasn't James at 15. I was James at 40. And I was kind of an odd kid, and I was kind of an odd adult. But it really freed me up to write a love story, which is what I really set out to write. And love stories are you know, they're strange things. And I looked at love stories that I liked, and I kept on going back to kind of classic, old school love stories like Casablanca. Stories that are really understated by today's standards, you know, that where so much is left off the page or left off the screen. You know, if you look at a book like Gone with the Wind or the movie, you know, it's just, I mean, that relationship is sublime by today's standards where everything is out there. You know, if you someone's going to redo Gone with the Wind, you know, it's going to be Quentin Tarantino's Gone with the Wind or something like that. I mean, somebody eventually will do it. It'll be like, frankly, my dear, I don't have a condom or something. It'll be very gratuitous and sweaty, I'm sure. And I didn't quite want to go there. And so Hotel is a bit of a throwback to the decorum of the 40s, which I kind of like. And for those of you that haven't read it or don't know a lot about it, it's a story of a young boy named Henry Lee, a young Chinese-American boy who's sent to an all-white private school right after the bombings of Pearl Harbor. And there he meets Keiko, a young Japanese-American girl. And together they form a very simple something. But if you know the history of the time period, you know that right after the bombings of Pearl Harbor, you know, soon, within months, by that August, well, sooner than then, but Keiko's family, Keiko's community, ultimately 110,000 Japanese Americans are going to be taken away to internment camps for their protection, even though the machine guns point in and not out. And so, you know, at some point, Henry's going to lose Keiko. But it's also the story of Henry as a grown man, and he's a widower at this point. He's really a man that's living with his lament, and he's thinking about that time or not thinking about that time. And he's walking down the street in what used to be Japantown. He passes an old hotel that's changed owners, and the new owner has made an interesting discovery: the belongings of 37 Japanese families stored in the basement as they were being taken away, and they remained there untouched. And as these things are coming up out of the basement, he sees something that he's pretty sure belonged to Keiko. And it forces him to reconcile the past and the present and think about the things he he did or didn't do or said, the things he left unspoken. And that part's true. That hotel still exists in Seattle. Those belongings were found in the 80s and still reside there to this day. So there's a lot of nonfiction with the fiction. And for those that haven't read the book, I'll just kind of stop there. I don't want to give away, I don't want to spoil anything. I did a book event in, I guess it was Spokane, Washington, and during the Q&A, a woman stood up and just, in the body of her question, just gave away the complete ending of the book. And the ladies around her, I thought they were just going to pummel her with questions.